Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we're joined by a very special guest. She's a psychedelic facilitator and high-performance coach, Miss Julie Cyvonne. How you doing today, Julie?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I mean, this is kind of subject is kind of interesting to me because I've been down that path and have some friends who swear by this.
Yeah, I think it's something that's getting more conversations around it, which is great. I think it's important to have open and honest conversations because it's not for everyone. And I think anyone who tries to tell you that anything is for everyone, whether it be like 75 days hard or meditation or whatever, like I truly don't believe there's a one size fits all approach. But for the people who this is for, it's very powerful and effective and fast. And if you pair it with integration, that really creates long lasting results.
Yeah. So the number one question the audience is probably wondering, who is Julie Cyvonne?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a girl from Iowa. That's where I was born and raised. Since then, I've kind of lived everywhere, whether it be like traveling to, I spent a semester in Argentina. I went to law school. I went up to Canada, and I thought I was going to become a barrister. That's like a Canadian lawyer. Ended up not pursuing that. I lived in California for 5 years. So although I've lived all over, I feel like the Midwest is really my home. I'm in Kansas City now. And I'm someone who had a life that looked really great on Instagram, but I was really struggling with my mental health despite having lots of fancy letters behind my name and a great job and like lots of money. And ultimately, I came to the practice of psychedelics, intentional psychedelic use to help me heal the root cause of my anxiety. And that was 5 years ago. And since then, I've discovered so much more that I could do with psychedelics and that people can utilize psychedelics for. So it's been a really interesting and unpredictable journey, but I've loved the ride.
You lost your dad at a young age. What kind of impact did that have in your life as you were growing up?
I mean, what didn't it impact, right? It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever been through. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's the most life-changing thing that's ever happened to me. And, you're not the same person after you experience a death like that. I was not the same little girl anymore. And honestly, this journey of me and healing has really been one of remembering who I was before that terrible thing happened to me and like reclaiming that part of my life and that energy, because it just put a huge cloud over my life from that point forward.
Yeah, I know I had trouble dealing with a lot of death as I was growing up too. Why do you think death and loss leaves so much baggage and wounds in a person's life that people are unwilling to heal?
Yeah, well, this person, whoever it is, whether it's a parent or perhaps people have lost a sibling or a grandparent or someone else that was a fixture of their life, like that's the thing, right? They were someone that they could count on day in and day out. And as a child, you don't really have a large worldview, right? Your world is your home. Your world is, maybe you do go to preschool or daycare or school eventually, right? But like your perception of what the world is very small. It's very insular. And so you lose one of these key players, and that's like losing a limb, right? It's like all you've ever known. It's not like you've traveled the world and met thousands of people. And now it's like, yes, that's sad if someone dies, right? But it's just not the same as losing this like very pivotal person. It's almost like once you lose a part of a game and you can't play the game anymore, right? Like the game just doesn't work. And I think if you have never gone through it, you can't fully understand it. But loss reshapes your nervous system. It reshapes like your neurology. Like it is something that is it's almost as damaging as breaking a bone or like losing a limb.
Can you explain that a little bit, like how it shapes your neurology and nervous system?
Yeah. I like to use this example sometimes. I don't know everyone's going to watch this. Some people might not just be listening, but so when we talk about, you might hear nervous system dysfunction on the internet. That's something that's big on like TikTok and Instagram, right? Maybe people have heard of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. All of these things are pointing to the same thing functionally in our brain, which is amygdala activation. Your amygdala is your threat center. So it is something that has been in our brain for as long as humans have been alive, even before we had like language and all this stuff, when we were getting hunted down by saber-toothed tigers, right? Your amygdala's job is to keep you alive. It's to keep your body, like your heart beating, your breath going. So it's not about like, hey, am I doing well? Am I having fun? Am I enjoying life? It's just like, am I alive? And when our amygdala gets activated, when blood flow goes to the amygdala, because we perceive a threat, right? And it's very real. When someone dies, that is a threat that is being perceived, because now you're thinking about resources. You might not be thinking this logically, right? Like consciously, but it's like, oh, do I have the resources that I need to, survive in society? Do I have protection? Do I belong to a tribe? That's a huge one, right? Under the most basic sense, the human biological drive is to fit into tribe so that you can survive. We are not lone wolf animals. We are pack animals. And when a parent dies, when someone who's caretaking you dies, your body at a subconscious level is reacting as if like, oh my God, I am fearing for my own survival because the people who are supposed to take care of me are dying, right? So your amygdala gets activated and you enter fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, one of these 4 strategies that are meant to protect us, which if you get in a car accident and you need to move quickly, that's awesome. I'm happy it's activated. But if you're just like a 6-year-old trying to figure out life after their dad dies, we need to find a way to get the amygdala to turn off, right? So what happens if your amygdala, if you don't get any regulation, you don't get co-regulation from your other parent or surviving people in your life, or you're just not taught these skills, you end up having low vagal tone. So your vagus nerve is something in your brainstem. And essentially, like if you get activated, if you get triggered on the internet or in Instagram comments, right, what should happen is like a Band-Aid. So your amygdala gets activated and your vagus nerve snaps back. It snaps right back. You have a normal reaction. You come back into rest and digest. Your autonomic nervous system and your parasympathetic are in a good cohesive relationship. But for people who don't learn co-regulation, who don't have like the tools for grief, which I didn't, I didn't talk to a grief counselor. I didn't get to see a therapist. Like no one was helping me through this in a way that like made a huge difference. My amygdala was always on. I couldn't snap back. My rubber band was broken, or was all stretched out, right? It was just like a limp rubber band that was never going back. And I spent a long time, years, in a very heightened state of arousal and awareness when all I wanted was to come back into rest and digest. And that's what I love about psychedelics is you can map this on an fMRI. Blood flow goes away from your amygdala and back into your prefrontal cortex. It redirects that blood flow. So then you can go back into rest and digest. You can make good choices. You can like think rational thoughts. And, I really attribute my work with psychedelics to helping me heal a very broken nervous system.
Crazy. What led you to choose law and become a lawyer?
It's not a very fun story. It's that I thought I was going to be a doctor and I can't do blood. I learned that in a prep class we were supposed to take. I was on the medical school path. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? My mom, I'm very grateful, paid for my college education. And she was like, well, if you don't want to become a doctor, that's fine, but you better figure it out. And so I made a list of things I was good at. I was a state debate champion. I liked public speaking. I liked to argue. I don't really like it anymore, but I decided, okay, I'll become a lawyer. And so I did, and I practiced for 3 years, and that is a terrible way to choose a profession. I hope no one else does that, but that is the very true but unromantic story.
But it's kind of interesting, though, because a lot of people do that. They choose the wrong path, and instead of choosing, like, what would you say, more of their purpose.
Yeah, and no one was asking me these purpose questions, right? Like there's not really like a course that you take to help you discover what your purpose is, and at least not in my high school or the beginning of college. So
yeah. So did you kind of feel it in your heart after a while that like this is not what I want to do, and just felt like you were kind of burnout and miserable doing it?
Yeah, there was a specific moment where I was clerking at the time, which is like you work for a judge and you help the judge like write their decisions and things. And so it was on the appellate court in Illinois. And we had a case, and my judge was an older white gentleman who used to be a cop. And in my opinion, based on all the evidence, I was like, we don't have enough evidence. Basically, like, I don't want to get too in the weeds about the law here, but for a criminal case, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, right? It's beyond a reasonable doubt that the person did the thing that you said that they did with the intent to do it, and blah, 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 blah. There was this case, and these 2 guys, black guys, were walking in an alleyway, and a cop said they both kind of reached for each other, but the cop was like, I didn't see them touch or like see anything pass hands. And then, the other guy came out of the alley and he had drugs in his hand. And so, or in his pocket. And so did the first guy, right? Did he hand him the drugs? That was the whole case. And I was like, well, the cop didn't see them touch. The cops didn't see, the drugs change hands. And I was like, so no, there's not enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. And my judge said 2 black guys don't walk down an alley for no reason. It's like, wow, okay, like that's what we're doing. And it was just it like broke part of my soul that I knew I was working for a man who thought that way and interacted that way with the world, specifically with people of color. And I was like, no, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah. So what inspired you to leave that behind and dive into the world of psychedelics?
Well, it wasn't just like a hard shift, right? I tried out a few different practice areas. I worked in special education. I worked with survivors of human trafficking, which are obviously like really amazing populations, like populations who need this work. And, I felt really good about the people I was serving and working with, but I still didn't like it. And I heard this podcast and this woman said, hey, do you want to get certified to coach? And it was just a very immediate intuitive yes. And so I said, yes, like, let's do it. And so I got certified to coach. I was coaching for about a year, doing executive coaching, pretty easy transition, working with C-suites and blah, blah, blah. And from there, I found psychedelics for myself, for my own healing of my anxiety and depression. And it just really took off. And it's been my work for 5 years.
Yeah, nice. How did you get introduced to psychedelics?
I was running a nonprofit at the time in LA, and we had this counterpart. He was an expat, but he lived in Colombia, and he was coming back to the country. And we met up, and we want to get dinner. We'd never seen each other in real life, and at dinner he said, "Hey, I'm investing in this company. I'd love to get your opinion. Can you come with me and check it out?" And I'm kind of just like a yes person. Maybe like people are thinking, well, duh, she got into psychedelics, but I was like, yeah, let's go see. I didn't really ask too many questions. And we got there, and it was a mushroom company. It was a company in California making microdosing capsules. And I was like, what is this? So he hands them to me, and like on the little, package, it says, take a microdosing capsule once a day for 3 days, and then don't do it for 2 days and repeat for a total of 30 days. It's like, well, just do it. I was like, but why? Or like how and when? And I had all these questions, right? And at the time, there wasn't really a lot of information about it. And so I figured it out. I read a lot of research papers. I read How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. I pursued facilitation trainings, which like facilitation really just means like, do you understand dosage, contraindications, potential with like medication, medical conditions, how to handle an aberration, right? And from there, I built a whole microdosing practice for myself. And people then were like, well, I want to do it too.
Amazing how that all just stemmed from an opportunity to you to go check a guy who was starting a business.
Yeah, it was very serendipitous, right? Like, I don't want to sound hokey. I don't want to like diminish my credibility, but I do feel like it feels very much like the universe was pushing me in that direction,
Yeah, that's what I would say too. What types of services do you provide?
Well, I really feel like I've done my best to do something for everyone, meaning like, at the one end of the spectrum, I have my one-to-one work, which I love so much. They're calls where we combine, yes, microdosing, but also all of my tools of transformation from my years of coaching and my certifications in coaching. And that's very specific to exactly what people want to work on, right? I have people who want to get off of unwanted medications. I have people who, one woman I just started with, she really wants to like step into her confidence and be able to use her voice. She just felt like she's almost 50 and she just feels like she's a pushover. Like everyone else kind of like runs all over her, and she's done with that. She wants to step into a new version of herself. I work with business owners, some people who are like, oh, I want to get out of corporate and I want to go full-time in my business, but X, Y, and Z. So we work on that. I have people who are already full-time in their business. And so if you really want like a customized, fully customized approach exactly to your goals and your needs, that's awesome. Like the one-to-one is definitely for you. If you're someone who's just like, I'm curious about microdosing, I want to get started. I want to kind of more like have a DIY approach, just see what it's like. I have a fully built out program that's delivered to you every day via text for 30 days. It tells you microdose today, don't microdose, do this, don't do that. So it's very much like whatever option that's there. It's like, I want to make sure everyone feels like they understand the process, there's absolutely no guesswork, and that they're doing it in a way that they're going to see long-lasting results. So that's kind of both ends of the spectrum. There's obviously options in between. And then shifting gears a little bit, I also offer retreats. So a retreat is where someone can come have a full dose. Most of my work is microdosing, right? It's taking a sub-perceptual amount of a psychedelic in order to promote change in the brain, but not to feel incapacitated in any way, versus like a full dose is what you think of a classic psychedelic experience, except it's facilitated in the therapeutic setting. So you're not like in the woods, taking mushrooms with fairies or whatever. You are laying down. It's an inward experience. It's for the purposes. It's for therapeutic purposes, for healing. There's an eye mask. There's a whole playlist. It's very much like a structured environment.
Nice. What would you say the biggest challenge your clients face is?
Ooh, that's a great question. The biggest challenge my clients face, honestly, probably like a lot of overwhelm. Like they just have a really active brain and an active mind where like there's always kind of, some people describe it as like there's a lot of tabs open. Some people describe it as like I just get a lot of feedback, like a lot of chatter. There's a lot of different like voices, and not voices like schizophrenia, but like voices like do this, don't do that, you shouldn't do that, you can't do that, you're dumb. Like just a lot of negative feedback and chatter. And I think like they're very successful, but they're very like high functioning and anxious, right? It's anxiety, but it's anxiety that can still perform at a certain level.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty common though, that a lot of people with those limiting beliefs about themselves playing over and over in their head.
Yeah.
What's the biggest backlash you face in your work with psychedelics?
Honestly, just misinformation, like propaganda. So for instance, there was a story that was put out in the 70s about, or 60s maybe, about someone who supposedly took LSD and jumped off a roof because he thought he could fly. That never happened. As a matter of fact, like that was a story that was put out by the government. It's not true. So like a lot of what you hear in DARE, which is honestly, you can look this up. It is a pyramid scheme in the police force. Like it's about recruiting other officers underneath you, and then you get paid more. So it is very much like literal definition of a pyramid scheme. But there's tons of things we get told in DARE. And look, I was a DARE kid. I signed my pledge. I was like, I will not do drugs. Drugs are bad. But like things like, oh, your brain is going to be scrambled. What does that, first of all, what does that mean? That means nothing unless someone puts a poker up your nose and like gives you a lobotomy. Like you can't scramble your brain. So that's BS. It's just a lot of things that people repeat. And I mean, this is like the problem of today's day and age, right? People hear something one time, they don't have any baggage or source for it, and they repeat it as if it is fact. I mean, we look at like seed oils on the internet. Everyone's like, seed oils will kill you. It's like, do you really know what you're talking about? Like, I don't think so. So it's just like anyone can be an armchair warrior these days, and they've never had to read a research paper.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The government put that out as they were conducting experiments with it and how to mind control people.
Exactly. That's another thing people don't want to talk about, right? Is MK Ultra and the fact that like the CIA was unknowingly and unwillingly dosing people with acid because they thought it could be used as an agent of war to get people to tell the truth. Well, it turns out it couldn't. But what it did do is it created a lot of different levels of consciousness in people where they started questioning, why are we involved in Korea? Why are we in Vietnam? Like, what is with U.S. international involvement in supposed diplomacy, right? Like, what are we trying to gain? And people didn't like that, right? The government doesn't like when you ask too many questions. And now we have this whole like, psychedelics are bad and they're so dangerous, but everyone's out here drinking alcohol. And at the end of the day, alcohol is far more dangerous, both for you, I mean, like the theoretical you, right? And for me and society at large.
Yeah, so true. How can microdosing with psychedelics be used as tools for focus, confidence, and sustainable success?
Yeah, so I think a great thing, one of my favorite things about psychedelics, right, is that, and microdosing, is that when you are truly microdosing, it is subperceptual, but you're still getting a lot of great brain benefits. And so my favorite benefits are an increase of entropy. So an increase in like more connectivity, more activity overall in our brain. Because when we look at people who are anxious or depressed or have PTSD or OCD or addiction, even though you might not be able to see it right away, what we're looking at is different flavors of the same thing, right? It's different flavors of ice cream. All of these are ice cream. And here's what I mean. All of those conditions have low neural plasticity. They have low neural activity. And I don't mean someone's dumb, right? Like you can be extremely smart and really struggle with OCD or any of the other issues. But it's a lot of rigidity. So OCD, what are we talking about? Repetitive thoughts, repetitive behaviors, depression, thought looping in the past, anxiety, thought looping in the future, PTSD, thought looping of a specific memory over and over again, addiction, behavior looping. I'm going to drink. I need this alcohol. So it's all a lot of rigidity, and it's a lot of like the same patterns, the same directions in our brain. If we could increase entropy and neuroplasticity, there's new connections. Our brain is talking in new ways, and that's really helpful for people who continue to go down the same path. So there's this part of our brain called the default mode network. I call her Regina George. And Regina George is a series of interconnected structures in your brain. And when Regina George is loud, that's when you're telling yourself, like, I suck, I can't do this, like, I'm not good enough. And what we do, we just like, it's almost like psychedelics and microdosing turns the volume down on her. So you shut her up. And if she's not telling you that, if you don't have this like backlash in your mind, then you can be more confident. Then you can focus, right? Then you have more energy to direct toward whatever it is you want to direct. But it's a really powerful practice that works really quickly. Like I just texted a woman who signed up for Unbreakable, and she started a week ago, and I texted her yesterday or Sunday, and I said, hey, like, how's it going? Fill me in. She was telling me about how wonderful it was going. It's only been a week, right? So it is really fast.
Yeah, amazing. So how do you help them rewire their brain?
So psychedelics are what's increasing the neuroplasticity, right? My job is to direct it. Because have you ever seen like a little kid and they're really going at it and they're running, but they're completely going in the wrong direction?
Yeah.
And you like reroute them. If you're just microdosing and you're not working with a guide or a program or like a structure, you're that little kid who's like, the race is over here, buddy, but you're heading over here. And so what my job is to do is like, it's not just about increasing neuroplasticity, it's about directing it in the right spot. So the microdosing is like the gas, but I'm like the GPS, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how do you get them to rewire the limiting beliefs that they're having about themselves? Is there anything special you do?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a big reason why I think it's important to work with someone who actually has been trained not just as a facilitator, but has actual tools of transformation, whether that be a therapist, a coach, etc. Because like I said, facilitation is just like, do you understand dose, contraindication, aberration? My specialty is that I have all these other tools, whether it be, different processes within my coaching certification. Maybe some of your listeners have heard of like EFT tapping, even hypnosis is a powerful tool, right? So all of these things are different tools in my toolbox that I use to help redirect and reroute your increase in neuroplasticity.
Yeah, nice. Why do you think so many people never focus on upgrading their subconscious mind and stay stuck doing what their conscious mind tells them?
I think because it's like Pandora's box, right? I was just talking to a client today who has some health problems, and there's this thing that she knows is like her next step and that she knows like is what needs to happen, but she's scared of what will come of that. And I think like that's true of everything, right? It's like, oh God, it's easier for me to keep that closet closed because if I open the door, God knows what's gonna come out, right? And they're just like, it feels really overwhelming to deal with it. But that's also what I like about psychedelics is that like it creates this, I call it a bubble of response. So for people who grew up, like I'll just use myself as an example, right? When my dad died, it was really hard to sit with my sadness or my grief because it was like a tsunami. It would just come over me, incapacitate me. I felt so like overwhelmed by it. But once I started using psychedelics, it was almost like I could microdose the feeling. I could choose how much of that I wanted to experience at any one time. So I could take little bites of it and digest it safely. It's like, how do you eat the whale? One bite at a time, right? You don't try to eat the whale like all at once. And so microdosing helps you eat the whale of your feelings. And it's really powerful for those people who are like, I'd rather just leave that door closed.
Yeah. How does nervous system regulation tie into performance, clarity, and emotional well-being?
So I made a fun post. If anyone wants to go follow me on Instagram and you like the show Sex and the City, there's a little quiz you can take. But basically, I was talking about how nervous system dysregulation shows up in your business as told by the different characters of Sex and the City. Because nervous system dysregulation, just tie it back to what we talked about at the beginning, right? It means you're acting in one of four ways: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So if you are like dysregulated and you're entering fight and you're in your business, right? That could mean like you push really hard, you never stop working, you feel like it's never enough, and you push yourself to the point of even further burnout where you literally can't show up in your business because you work so hard, right? If you're in flight mode, that can be someone who like, oh, well, when I don't see the result that I wanted immediately, I'll ditch. Like I bailed on my launch halfway through, or I'm nervous about what a client's going to say, so I'm not going to open that email. Like you are an avoider, right? You're an avoidant in your business, in your career. You can be a freezer, and then you are someone who just like truly shuts down. Like you probably know what you need to do. Like maybe, your boss was like, okay, I need these 5 things, but you just like, it feels like you physically can't. You can't make yourself do them. Or you're a fawner. You're constantly looking for reassurance from your boss, from your coach, from your clients. Like, are you okay? Is everything going well? Right. And so what does this all mean? Well, it's taking away from you being in your, and this isn't something I made up, it's something Gay Hendricks, the author of The Big Leap, talks about, like being in your zone of genius, right? If you're constantly like in a state of dysregulation, you're never going to do the thing that I believe with my whole heart. Every person on this planet was put here for a specific thing that they do so well, that they do with their own unique lens, that no one could ever replicate them, right? They are I'm not a big football player, and so this might not land for some people, but like Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes in a way that Patrick Mahomes can only be him, right? When we see these people who like are really excelling in their field, to me, I see someone who's living in their zone of genius. But if you're constantly dysregulated, you're never going to figure out what that is, and you're never going to be able to stay there.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of the breath work you use?
Yeah. Well, so the main type of breath work that I facilitate is a mix between holotropic and transformational. So it is very like it's a longer session. It's more intense, but a great one that anyone can do if they're feeling a bit overwhelmed. I'll just start there. Is to do something that I call a box breath. So it's inhaling through your nose for 4, holding at the top for 4, exhaling through your nose for 4, and then holding at the bottom for 4. And as you'll see, it's 4, 4, 4. It's like I made a square, right? So you can do that. You can set a timer for even a minute. Do that. Awesome. If you want to like keep expanding, you can go to 5, 5, 5, 5, or 6, 6, 6, 6. Do that anywhere from like 1 minute to 5 or 10 minutes. And it really does help you recenter. It helps you calm down. It helps you come out of fight or flight so that you can make a good choice.
Yeah, I use a lot of breath work as I'm doing mindset training with athletes too. So when they're in the heat of competition, like, hey, deep breaths to kind of come back to the moment and stay focused on what you're doing. Just relax.
For sure.
So I know it works really well. How can someone begin exploring psychedelics safely and responsibly if they felt called to this work?
Well, I have a great quiz. You can go to shouldimicrodose.net and you can find out for yourself whether or not microdosing is right for you. It's like honestly 11 questions. It should not take you more than 10 minutes. And it helps you understand like, yes, this is definitely for me, or no, it's definitely not. Here's the thing. I would never want to waste anyone's time. So if it's definitely not for you, like I would rather you just find out. Or there's also, you might get the result of like, this might be for you, but it's worth having a conversation, in which case, like send me a message. I'm very friendly. I just want to make sure that like you find out the best path for you. If this is it, or if it's not, that's okay too.
Yeah. How does someone know if microdosing is for them, though?
Okay. Well, some big things that I see a lot are you've tried other things. I've gone to CBT therapy. I've gone to EMDR. I've tried the prescriptions. I've done coaching programs. I've read the books. I've listened to the podcast. And it's like, I get it. It's like someone who can explain to me, yes, well, I have an avoidant attachment style because I had a traumatic childhood and my mother was abusive and an alcoholic, and therefore I attract men who blah, blah, blah. It's like, you can like write the DSMN about yourself, but like, nothing's changing. You're not making any different choices. That's a big indicator. When I hear that from, potential clients, I'm like, oh, yep, probably a good choice for you.
Awesome. So if they know everything, can describe all their bad habits, but they're unwilling to go fix them, then
well,
or don't
it's not
know exactly how.
They want to fix it, but they're like not. Yeah. Here's the thing. Therapy is great for helping you understand how you got there. It's not necessarily that useful for like doing different moving forward.
Yeah, I think a lot of when somebody wants to tell me that if you feel like you need coaching, you probably need therapy. And if you think you need therapy, you might need coaching.
Oh, interesting. I never heard that.
Yeah, I forget who told me that. That was kind of interesting when I heard that. Should someone be microdosing every day or be more on a strategic schedule?
Oh my God. If you're microdosing every day, stop. Not because anything's going to happen to you, but it's like, I think we've all heard, like, you can only absorb so much vitamin C in a day, right? So if you take more vitamin C, like one of those emergency packs, like you basically just pee it out. That's what's happening to you with microdosing. Like, it's no longer effective. It's really important that you follow a schedule, aka a protocol, for a set amount of days. I recommend 30 days. And then you stop for a period of time to let your body reset so that you stop building up tolerance. So yeah, I mean, if you're microdosing every day, like, you're wasting your money and your time.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't your tolerance go up by each day you take it?
Your
I think that's what I
tolerance,
heard as a kid. Yeah.
it builds a lot faster. It builds the fastest with psychedelics, way faster even than it does with alcohol. So it's very important that you understand that. And if you don't, then it's probably time to work with someone who does.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, come find me on Instagram, JULIECYVONNE. I'm very friendly. I answer all of my own DMs. You can message me, I'll definitely get back to you. Or my website's the same thing. It's just juliesvone.com. Those are both great places to find me, to stay in touch. Or I have a podcast that's all about my psychedelic journey. It's called The Inner Trip, 365 Days with Plant Medicine. So if you're a podcast listener and want to learn more about what I do and my experience, that's a great place to go.
Awesome. Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I feel like we've done the micro, the macro, how it works, why it works. Yeah, I think you had such amazing questions.
Well, I appreciate it. All right, final question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
I think one thing that I needed to hear was that everything that you want is possible. I think once I started to really believe that it was possible for me, things started to shift. And there was this moment I had when I was an attorney and I was crying on the couch and I thought, like, I would never get better from my anxiety. And I had tried all these things and I was like, man, I'm doomed, right? It's almost like I got branded and like, that's it. Like, I'm just going to be anxious. And I had no hope. It was really just a moment of despair. And, finding that hope and believing that I could change was a huge necessary part of this journey. So, like, everything is possible for you. Anything and everything can get better. It's like never too late. As long as you're still breathing, like, things can shift. And I hope that you remember that.
Great advice. Julie, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your insight with all of us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a really great experience, and I truly appreciate your questions.
Thank you. Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way to get what you want is go through the fire.